Hey everyone, welcome to the M&R show. I'm Ron,
I'm Malcolm.
and today we have a special guest. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
I'm Shane, and I run No Narratives Inc. on Instagram.
Okay.
Oh, so there it is from Bronx, New York.
Nah,
Is it
nah,
from Bronx?
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn. Oh, my bad.
New York, facts.
Brooklyn. Okay, you a New York Knicks fan?
Nah,
I was saying. I know. I was kidding. I was just kidding. Just messing.
We wanted to bring another basketball expert on the show. We were talking about some Anthony Davis, some Blake Griffin, some Andre Drummond, different topics. But this time we're going to be starting off with Malcolm. He's going to be doing the impact of Anthony Davis's injury. What's the impact, Malcolm?
Now, this is going to be really big for the Lakers. Number one, they are really competing in a very deep, top-heavy West right now.
Definitely.
And I think Anthony Davis is out for 46 weeks. Now, this impact it's really heavy impact. It's impacting the Lakers, but I think that it's going to impact a team like the Jazz in a great way. The Jazz has been playing good. They're the number one team in the West right now, actually number one team in the NBA right now. They have been killing it on both sides of the court. And I think that when you have a guy like Anthony Davis being injured, how big he is, how big of a piece that he is to the Lakers, the Jazz, it'll be a lot more easier for the Jazz because the Jazz will be able to steamroll, be able to do what they got to do because the only thing they have to worry about is LeBron, not AD. And you know, if you put two top 5 players on the team, it's going to be instant championship. And I think that when you take one superstar away, you have teams like the Jazz, the Clippers, and maybe the Suns will be a bigger threat to the Lakers than they were before. So that's why I just think that's what's going to happen now and how big of an impact that is going to affect the Lakers and the Western Conference.
Shane?
I definitely think it's a big impact in terms of seeding for the regular season because now it kind of gives the Lakers a dilemma. For them to stay above water in the regular season, LeBron's going to probably have to play more minutes, and they have to decide what matters more to them, seeding or being fresh for the playoffs. And I actually think because of that injury, I could see the Lakers finishing as a seed as low as the 4 seed right now. Because I think eventually LeBron's going to probably have to start low managing because he had, 70 days off between the finals and first game. So it's just like he's human. He's going to eventually have to start low managing. Their team is pretty deep, but it's deep to complement the stars. Without those two, they're not a playoff team. So without AD, I think the Clippers and Jazz are definitely going to finish with the top 2 seeds. And that probably means we don't get the Battle of LA in the conference finals again this year. Even if AD is healthy, you probably get in the second round as the 2-3 or 1-4 matchup. But assuming he's out for the season, they obviously can't win the championship, and I don't think they make the finals. I think they could beat the Jazz without AD, but they can't beat the Clippers. But if he's healthy, I still think they're the team to beat. Even if he's not 100%, I still think they're the team to beat in the West.
Yeah, definitely. Go. What you just say, Michael?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on both of you all side. I think, like you said with the seeding, you all basically covered that. They can fall pretty far. The team still isn't bad. I'm really, as a LeBron fan, I'm ready to see what he's going to do. But I'm really, really, really excited to see what THT is going to do right now. Kyle Kuzma's going to do right now. KCP is going to do right now. And the Caruso is going to do right now. Because these are 4 role players that haven't had to do but so much. But 2 of them, I think, in Kuzma and definitely KCP should definitely be able to average more than 8 points a game. I think that's what they're around right now. At least around 12. So that'd be a 4-point bump for each. And then THT still hasn't been 100% unlocked. So I think we'll maybe see a little bit more of him because of his shot creation. But like you said, if Anthony Davis out for the season, this could be a second round exit team. But if he's at least 90 to 100% healthy, I still have him as the favorite. Really, it's really about the playoffs. I really could care less about the seeding. We've seen the Heat not even be the number 1 seed. At least I think it was twice they were the number 1 seed. Doesn't really matter. And especially since the other team that their rival is against is still in LA, it's not even really an away game. So that I feel like that really doesn't really matter, the seeding like that. Only thing that scares me, they could possibly play a Suns team in the first round, which they can beat, but that's so much effort to beat a team like that.
I agree with what you're saying in terms of I think maybe the worst case scenario, because it looked like he's coming back this year, whether it's regular season playoffs. I think the worst case scenario is kind of like the road to the finals is going to beat them up where when they get to the finals, they're not 100%. Because I think that's what happened to Golden State in 2016. Going 7 games with the Thunder, chasing the 73 wins. I think that fatigued them. And it's like assuming a team from the East, like say the Nets make it, they're probably going to be fresher because the Lakers had the short layoff, and then say they have 2, like say they play the Suns 6 games, the Jazz 7, and then the Clippers 7 on the way to the finals. Yeah, like that's going to take a lot out of them for sure.
So, okay. So let me hear this, Shane. No narratives right now. You have no narratives, all right? So I got a question for you. So you're telling me that just what you said, AD at 50% is still the team to beat?
You said 50%?
For sure, bro. Like, I'll put it to you like this.
Okay, let me listen.
Game, like, people try to overthink too much stuff, but like, the league is always about superstars. 50% of AD is still a top 15 player. 50% of him. Would you take AD at 50% in the playoffs or Paul George at 100%?
I think that to be honest, let's not forget that Paul George is still a good player in the playoffs. Last year, he didn't do that. But AD likes to shoot a lot of jump shots when he's getting injured. And to be honest, the jump shots don't always go in. And AD will have these bad games. But you're playing against a team like the Clippers, the Suns, the Jazz. These are well, except for the Suns, but the Clippers and the Jazz are battle-tested teams who have been to the playoffs, who play defense and they play offense. And I just don't. It's finding it hard for me to believe for AD to be 50% and they still have a chance to beat them. That's just me. I
don't know about the Clippers, but the Jazz. I think they can still beat the Jazz. Yeah.
I feel like because AD's game, even if he's not 100%, he's still impacted on offense. Because look, if you put AD at the 5, he pulling Gobert away from the basket. Yeah. So the Jazz, he don't need to be 100% for that, to pull someone away from the basket. And if you're gonna let him, leave him wide open to shoot like that, healthy or not, he's still gonna be a threat. His game isn't really, to me, the area where he needs to be 100% is defensively. But even then, what teams in the West, what bigs are really punishing AD on the block? Gobert's a pick and roll center. The Clippers, Zubac and Ibaka aren't punishing AD even if he's not.
They're just stretching the floor, yeah.
Yeah, so he gonna be fine. Like, I think maybe the Suns is an interesting matchup because like Chris Paul like to take bigs off switches. That's a series he probably need to be 100%, but a Chris Paul D book-led team isn't beating Brown.
You're right. I give you that one with the Suns, but the Clippers and Jazz.
The Clippers scare me. The Clippers
I
definitely.
think it definitely goes 7 if he's not 100%.
The Clippers one, yeah. My last thing, the Clippers one. First, the Clippers one scares me as LeBron fan. 100%. The Clippers are even better this year than last year.
Nah, I agree.
You can argue Lakers are too, though.
They're getting slept on. Clippers slept on.
Clippers are definitely, but that's good for them though. This is the team. They don't need the hype from last year. So, but anybody else has anything to say on this segment before we move on? Okay. So now we're gonna move on. We're gonna be talking about different trade ideas. What's gonna happen with Blake Griffin and Drummond? Anything I think buyout trades, anything like that. So I'm gonna start this one. For Blake Griffin, definitely not the biggest fan. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's a decent passer. He's working on his jump shot. Fun fact, he hasn't dunked since 2019. Saw that on First Things First this morning. Crazy stat knowing that his whole MO was athleticism. Now he's not athletic. We see how it's working out for Russell Westbrook, by the way. So now they're saying maybe he's gonna get bought out, but they owe him $50 million. Don't know how that's gonna work out. That's gonna be maybe somebody has an exception like Boston, the Nets, Lakers. Those are the teams he's rumored to, quote unquote, by Woj. I also heard the Heat. Don't see how that works. But these are just some of the teams. I really can't pencil anything for Blake Griffin. People are saying maybe he come off the bench, play 15 minutes. That just seems weird for him to me anyway, like just by name value and everything. It's probably where he best fits now, but it's just a weird overall thing. I mean, I've heard they said Nets need bodies. Don't know if they really go after him, but for $5 million for Blake Griffin, I'd probably take that chance. Then for Drummond, definitely the Nets and Boston and the Raptors too, because the Raptors are actually trying to trade for him right now. But Boston has that Gordon Hayward exception, right, Malcolm? Yeah, so Boston has the Gordon Hayward exception. Then we got the Nets, who just use a big body center that could just basically just take DeAndre Jordan off the floor. Yeah, so those are my 3 teams for Drummond. Shane?
For Blake, I was actually about to make a post about this. I think the Jazz, the Nets, and the Lakers are the 3 best roles for him, because if you put him, I'll go team by team. If you put him on the Nets, he doesn't help them defensively, but he's still like, what he could give you offensively is more as like a small ball center is more than what Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan could give. Because even though he's not the shooter Jeff Green is, he's a very underrated passer. And now you could have Joe Harris, Kyrie, KD, and Harden playing off the ball to a center. Now you could really go 5 out. Like, I feel like his game will kind of be like how Nick Batum meshed with the Clippers. Like a good veteran, play his role, play 20, 24 minutes. I think the Jazz are underrated because of the same reason the Jazz and Lakers, I feel like his defensive limitations will be hidden by Gobert and AD in those situations. And he's still a high IQ player who's been in wars, been in second round, played against champs. And just like, he could at least give you 15 minutes in the playoffs. And I feel like that gets underrated when we talk about depth. How many guys could realistically give you 15 good minutes in the playoffs? So, but Drummond, I agree with you with Nets and Celtics being the 2 main teams. Celtics need a big, and the Nets is like an obvious fit there because they also need a big.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, I totally agree with all of y'all with every team that y'all said. I think the Nets will be a good one. It'll actually, I mean, their offense is all time, but I think that with Blake Griffin, you can give it to another dimension. Because Blake Griffin, I mean, we all can say something about Blake Griffin, but he's still a borderline playmaker. You know, he still will help out, open the offense a lot more in Brooklyn. And I think he's better than DeAndre Jordan. I mean, they're both bad defensively, but I mean, how bad can you get, to be honest, if you switch it from DeAndre Jordan to Blake Griffin? It doesn't matter. So you're really playing the same thing, but Blake Griffin's actually unlocking a lot going on in the offensive side.
Yeah.
Celtics will be a very good option because, you know, Celtics are in need of playmaking and a 4. So I think that'd be the perfect option. I think one thing that we might be sleeping on, and I understand it might be a low-key wonky fit, but let's just understand it for a bit. I think Milwaukee could be a good one if Blake Griffin gets bought out. That's one thing.
Really?
Yeah, he has to get bought out. He can't, you know, there's no trading going on. That's impossible. But if he gets bought out, I think that he unlocks a lot because one thing is that, I mean, Brook Lopez is very good, but if you have a guy like Blake Griffin who gives you an extra amount of playmaking, especially when the playoff comes around, and, you know, playmaking is such a huge aspect in the game, especially when you're in the playoffs. And I think Jrue Holiday is a very good playmaker, but if you add a guy like Blake Griffin to shoot the 3, and you can do really 5 out, just like we say about the Nets, you can do the same thing with Milwaukee. You give guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo enough space to be able to move in. And another thing about Blake Griffin is he's battle tested. He's been to the playoffs before, you know, so it's not like we're bringing a guy that, you know, who hasn't been to the playoffs at all. So I really think those options will be good. Now for Drummond, I think Boston or Brooklyn are the 2 best options for Drummond right now. Number 1, I think that Brooklyn would be perfect for him. I understand that, you know, he could put up 30 and 20 and not have any impact of the game, but at the end of the day, he's still a rebounder. He's still a big body. That will do a lot more than DeAndre Jordan. You know, everybody's seen what DeAndre Jordan has done, and it's been negative. I just seen a post about how when since the James Harden trade, the starting lineup was a negative. So DeAndre Jordan has been messing some things up. I think that if you bring in a guy like Drummond, he helps out with rebounding. He should help out with defense way better than what DeAndre Jordan shows. And then in Boston, I feel like he would do the same thing in Boston, which Boston totally needs, is somebody who is big in the interior.
Yeah, Drummond. Drummond hasn't been the best this season. His stats aren't as bad though. But I mean, I'm not sure the Nets. Because would you say the Nets need rebounding? Is really the problem? I think it's just the rim protection, really.
Nah, I think like if the Nets get Drummond, they coast to the championship. Nobody's pushing for 5 games because like they winning games right now with 20 less shot attempts than their opponent. because
Yeah.
Drummond at worst is gonna probably give you 3 to 4 more possessions a game.
Yeah, offensive rebounds though.
And they're already winning games without it. And DeAndre Jordan is like one of the worst starters in the league. Like even if Drummond is like his stats don't necessarily tell his impact, he just needs to be better than DeAndre Jordan. That's all he needs to be, better than DeAndre Jordan. And
yeah, that shouldn't be too hard. The negative offense and defense. Yeah,
that's really all the point. Yeah, and like the Nets, people love talking about their defense, but name any other team in the league that you could legitimately say if they play 10 good defensive minutes, they'll probably win the game.
I mean, probably the Lakers. If AD's healthy.
It's just those two. Like Drummond for sure. I even though Blake not a great rebounder and passer, DeAndre Jordan, I'm just not sure he could really play in like the later than playoffs. Like you're gonna have to run with Jeff Green or KD at center.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that. That's gonna kill Durant. Durant just came off the Achilles injury. You cannot keep putting him at 5, especially in the playoffs for those heavy minutes.
For sure.
So I mean, Drummond does help in that way. The Blake one is just so weird to me. I have no idea where Blake's gonna end up. Because for one, again, he's owed $50 million over the next 2 years. I don't know who wants to trade for that one. If he gets bought out, like, is he gonna give $40 million back for what?
Nah, he's gonna get bought out. He's gonna get his agent. I know because his agent organized a Darren Williams buyout from the Nets when Darren Williams had like $60 million left. Him and Drummond have the same agent, and their buyout came around the same day. Like he's good at like Shorts, I think is his last name. He's good at orchestrating buyouts and like find a way for the players to get paid.
But move on, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, they both gonna have to let go a lot of bread. That's one thing we have to understand. Sure. And these both guys, I think Drummond, we're a bit understand because Drummond at the beginning of the season was doing very good for the Cleveland Cavaliers until the Jarrett Allen trade came along. And I mean, his numbers look nice, but you see that the impact wasn't really as much as it was beginning of the season. So I just think that if you give Drummond a fresh, new team, I think that he will play a lot better. So I think we realize sleeping on Drummond now. Blake Griffin, I feel like he's the wild card. We don't know what we're going to get from him. Definitely. Especially, since we heard through camp that he was his best in shape since forever, and we're watching this game and we're like, where's the shape at?
Still hasn't dunked.
Yeah, what's going on? So I just think that Blake Griffin is the wild card, but I think that I know Milwaukee might not even think about it, but if they just thought about it for 2 seconds, just understand what a guy like Blake Griffin would bring to the table for them, it can work.
I think Blake got a higher ceiling for whatever team lands in because, like I said, do you really think at this stage of Blake Griffin's career, when he knows like worst case scenario, he could probably give some money back and get a buyout, do you think he's going 100% for the Detroit Pistons at this stage of his career?
Probably not.
That's why I was thinking
like everyone thought Nick Batum was washed when he was with a rebuilding team in the Hornets until he got with good players and a contender, and he's had his best year in 4 years. To me, Blake Griffin, the Andre Drummond one is more concerning because he's on an expiring contract. Like everybody on an expiring contract is trying to get paid. So this is probably the best, even though his effort is he's trying to get paid, he's not trying to lose money. So that's kind of the concerning part. But Blake Griffin, he got 3 years left. Like I feel like if he get with a contender, he's gonna be rejuvenated.
It could work. It could work. See, that's why he says the wild card. Because I mean, it could work. It could be just like that, or
it go the opposite. It get hurt.
Yeah. This is exactly what
the same day.
Yeah.
Literally. Last thing I'm gonna say is we didn't talk about Blake Griffin's injury history. We don't really need to because I feel like everyone knows about that. But also, that's just a final concern I have to say is god dang Blake's hurt every year. I think about me playoff. Like we talking about the playoffs battle test, he missed half of those. Like in the playoffs with the Clippers, he didn't play a lot of those series. Like he was just out because of the foot injury, then he had the knee injury. In college, he had the injury. Anyway, yeah. Like anybody else any last remarks? All right. Well, again, Shane, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Follow you again.
No Narratives Inc. on Instagram, NONARRATIVES Inc. on Instagram.
Okay.
Thank y'all for having me. I got a good podcast going on here. Show love to the Malcolm and Ron show.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
I appreciate it. Hey, before we go, I want to know your hot take. So you think Brooklyn going to the finals this year?
I know the Nets going to the finals.
Are they going to win it? Is the question.
For sure. Like, all I'm saying is, whatever your narrative is on the Nets, because I don't do narratives. Before we heard one ball. We heard one ball, and now it's their defense. Now it's this, now it's that. I don't want to hear when they win that they stacked the deck. I don't want to hear, like, they needed 3 superstars when the whole year they were telling me this team's going to beat them because of their flaws. My thing is, the reason I think the Nets are winning the championship, being completely unbiased. The difference is James Harden and me, because when other players' stars is on the bench, the Nets don't really have depth, but James Harden is running the second unit while your stars are on the bench. It showed last night with the Suns, in the Suns game.
You're right. I think Philly has a
chance, though.
A
chance. No one's saying they don't have a chance. Definitely.
Philly got the best chance in the East to beat the Nets.
You're right. I get you. But hey, guys, thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate y'all. Follow us on Instagram at Malc and Ron Show. Follow us on Twitter at Malc and Ron Show. Thanks for being on the show, Shane. And y'all guys have a great day.
All right, everyone. Make sure subscribe to us on YouTube at M&R Show as well. Had a new episode dropping twice this week. Make sure to comment. All right.
See ya.